What happens when rap beef stops being about music and turns into something you can never take back? This isn't just another social media trolling session. This isn't just bars traded in the studio. This is family, legacy, and trauma colliding in public. It all started when 50 Cent took a shot at T.I. by posting about Tiny Harris. What could have stayed between two rap veterans instantly became personal. But nobody expected what happened next. King Harris went live, and what he said sent shockwaves through hip-hop. He didn't just clap back.
I want to say something about my mama. Your mama dead as Your mama dead as Go dig her up. Go dig her up.
He crossed a line most artists never dare to touch. Dead parents were mentioned. Old wounds were reopened. And suddenly, this wasn't entertainment anymore. It was war. Then Boosie Badazz stepped in with a warning that made the whole culture pause.
But man, when you start talking about people's deceased parents, you crossing a line that's hard to come back from.
Because once you bring someone's deceased mother into a beef, where do you go from there? This story isn't just about diss tracks and Instagram posts. It's about pride, power, and the consequences of going too far in a world that rewards disrespect. And trust me, this one spiraled fast. This whole situation didn't explode overnight. It had been building for years, quietly, underneath interviews, subtle jabs, and unanswered challenges. For a long time, T.I. had been publicly calling out 50 Cent for a versus battle. Ever since the pandemic era versus wave took off in 2020, Tip made it clear he wanted that matchup. In his mind, it made perfect sense. Atlanta royalty versus New York royalty. Southern catalog versus Queens catalog. Hit for hit. Stage presence for stage presence. Legacy for legacy. Tip truly believed his discography could stand next to 50's. Records like What You Know, Live Your Life, Whatever You Like, and Bring 'Em Out weren't small records. They defined an era. And from his perspective, a versus battle would be culture-shifting television. But every time the challenge came up, 50 responded the same way. Deflection, memes, and trolling. No serious engagement, no acceptance, just jokes and subtle disrespect. Over time, that dismissal started to feel intentional. It wasn't just declining the battle, it was making it look like Tip wasn't even worthy of a response. And in hip-hop, disrespect hits harder than rejection. Then things escalated. Instead of addressing T.I. directly in a music sense, 50 pivoted to social media antics. That's always been his arena. He understands that controlling the internet often matters more than controlling the booth. At some point during this back and forth, 50 posted an unflattering image of Tiny Harris. Now, this wasn't random. Tiny isn't just T.I.'s wife. She's part of the legacy. A member of Escape, a figure in Atlanta culture, a mother. That post was the match. Up until then, this was industry tension. The moment Tiny was dragged into it, it became family business. T.I. responded how rappers from his generation respond. He went to the studio. He didn't hop on live yelling. He didn't post emotional captions. He recorded diss records. Back-to-back tracks aimed directly at 50. Sharp bars. Direct accusations. Clear energy. It was competitive, lyrical warfare. The kind of response many purists respect.
I want to say something about my mama. Your mama dead as Your mama dead as Go dig her up. Go dig her up.
But while T.I. handled it musically, someone else was watching all of this unfold in real time. His son, King Harris. And King wasn't thinking about strategy. He wasn't thinking about brand image. He was thinking about his mother being embarrassed online in front of millions of people. So he went live. Thousands tuned in as King let raw emotion pour out. No filter, no PR team, no veteran calm. He wasn't speaking like a calculated artist. He was speaking like a son defending his mother. And that's when the temperature changed completely. He told 50 to post a picture of his own mother. He reminded everyone that 50's mother is deceased. He repeated it, emphasized it, pushed it further. What started as trolling flipped into something darker, something irreversible. In hip-hop culture, there's an unspoken rule. You can disrespect a man's music, his money, even his character. But bringing up deceased parents? That's sacred territory. That's trauma. And for 50 Cent, losing his mother at a young age is widely known as one of the defining traumas of his life. So when King brought that up publicly, it wasn't just disrespect, it was surgical. But King didn't stop there. He also targeted another known sensitive area, 50's relationship with his son. Public tension between 50's and his son has played out online for years. So when King said, "Your son don't love you, you don't got no family," he wasn't just insulting him. He was attacking legacy and loneliness. That's a different level of warfare. Now the internet had something explosive. 2 generations involved. Dead parents mentioned. Children mentioned. Family structure questioned. This was no longer about Verzuz. It wasn't even about rap skill. It was psychological combat broadcast live. And here's where it gets interesting. 50 Cent has built a reputation as hip-hop's master troll. He's dismantled careers through memes. He's survived beefs with heavy hitters and walked away controlling the narrative almost every time. His formula is simple. Provoke, wait for emotion, amplify the reaction, win perception. King's emotional outburst played directly into that formula. But here's the twist. Some parts of the culture understood why he reacted. A lot of people said the same thing. That's his mom. In many households, disrespecting someone's mother is automatic escalation. It doesn't matter if you're famous or broke. It doesn't matter if cameras are rolling. That instinct kicks in fast. The problem is, instinct doesn't always equal strategy. While King was venting live, 50 was quiet. And when 50 is quiet, that usually means he's calculating. He doesn't need to yell. He doesn't need to go live. He lets the internet chew on the chaos while he studies the angles. And that silence? It made things even more tense. Because now everyone was waiting for 50's counter. Would he go lower? Would he ignore it? Would he weaponize it? Meanwhile, T.I was still focused on music, still previewing bars, still framing this as rap competition. But the audience had shifted focus. The conversation wasn't about who would win a Verzuz anymore. It was about who crossed the line first and who crossed it worst. Then another layer got added. Boosie Badazz entered the conversation. And when Boosie speaks on street-coded matters, people listen. He's not known for being politically correct. He's known for saying exactly what he believes. Boosie acknowledged King's anger. He said, "That's his mama." He understood the emotion. But he also said something important. King took it to a different level, a darker level. And that's the tension at the heart of this entire situation. Was King wrong for defending his mother? Or did he go too far in how he did it? Was 50 trolling as usual? Or did he intentionally drag family into something that should have stayed lyrical? At this point, lines were blurred. The culture was split. Social media was divided between Team 50, Team Tip, and King stood on business. But one fact remained clear. The moment deceased parents were brought into it, this stopped being entertainment. It became permanent. And in hip-hop, permanence is dangerous. Because words disappear from timelines. But they don't disappear from memory. And now everyone involved had to figure out what comes next, in a beef that had already crossed a boundary that most artists never touch. Once those live stream clips started circulating, the situation moved from heated to historic. What King Harris said wasn't just controversial. It was the kind of statement that reshapes a conflict permanently. And the reason it hit so hard is because of who he said it to. 50 Cent isn't just another rapper on Instagram. He's someone whose entire public identity is built around surviving trauma, outlasting enemies, and turning pain into power. Losing his mother at a young age is a central part of his story. So when King Harris brought that up, it wasn't random, it was targeted. But here's the deeper layer most people missed. 50 built his brand off being untouchable emotionally. He laughs at pressure, he jokes during chaos, he turns beef into marketing. We've seen him go at artists, actors, executives, and almost every time, he controls the narrative. The reason that strategy works is because most opponents respond with emotion. They rant. They over-explain. They go live repeatedly. And the more they talk, the more 50 clips, reposts, and reframes. King's reaction fit that pattern, but this time felt different because of the generational gap. This wasn't a veteran rapper responding. This was the son of T.I. stepping into the arena. And that shift changed the energy of the conversation. Suddenly, people weren't just debating catalog strength. They were debating upbringing, masculinity, loyalty, and parenting in public. King doubled down by going to the studio and dropping Made Man. That move mattered. It showed he wasn't just venting. He was willing to put it on wax. The visuals, the tone, the delivery. It was clear he wanted to prove he wasn't just a rapper's son reacting emotionally. He wanted to establish identity, independence, presence. But again, strategy versus emotion became the question. Because 50 doesn't need to drop a diss track to win. His battlefield is perception. He understands algorithms better than most marketing teams. Silence can be louder than response. When you've built a reputation as the villain, people expect to strike back. Meanwhile, T.I. stayed in music mode. He kept framing it as lyrical competition. That's important. Tip was trying to keep this in traditional rap territory. Bars for bars. Records for records. Skill versus skill. That's a battleground he's comfortable in. He's a seasoned lyricist with decades in the game. But social media doesn't operate on traditional rap rules anymore. It runs on shock value. And that's where the culture started to fracture. Some people argued that 50 crossed the line first by posting Tiny. They said once family is dragged in, retaliation is inevitable. Others argued that mentioning someone's deceased mother can't be justified under any circumstance. The debate wasn't really about who started it anymore. It was about where the moral boundary sits in modern hip-hop. Then Boosie Badazz stepped in publicly. His take carried weight because he's lived both the industry life and the street life. He acknowledged that defending your mother is instinctual, but he also warned that certain words create consequences you can't undo. That warning wasn't about Twitter arguments. It was about real-world escalation. Because when pride mixes with public humiliation, unpredictable things happen. And Boosie has seen that firsthand in his own life. But here's another angle most people overlooked. This beef exposed something deeper about generational shifts in hip-hop. The older generation understands subliminal disrespect and coded responses. The younger generation often responds in real time, unfiltered, and amplified by social media. King represents that new wave, immediate, emotional, transparent. 50 represents the calculated era, patient, strategic, manipulative with timing. That clash of styles made the situation volatile. And let's talk about optics. There's a power imbalance here. 50 is a mogul with television deals, film production credits, and executive influence. King is building his career. Every move King makes carries more long-term risk. When a billionaire troll and a young emerging artist go at it, the stakes aren't equal. That's why some commentators started framing this as a mismatch. Not lyrically, but structurally. 50 can afford chaos. King cannot. At the same time, others argued that King standing up publicly gained him credibility. In certain circles, defending your mother aggressively isn't reckless. It's honorable. That perspective matters too. Culture isn't monolithic. What one audience sees as crossing the line, another sees as standing on principle. And through all of this, 50's silence became its own tactic. Instead of escalating immediately, he let the internet replay King's words over and over. Every repost extended the life of the moment. Every debate increased engagement. Whether intentional or not, that benefited him. T.I., meanwhile, continued previewing music. He kept the focus on catalog. He kept reminding people this started as a Versus challenge. But that original context was almost completely lost at this point. Nobody was arguing about 20 songs versus 20 songs anymore. The conversation had become psychological. Who looks hurt? Who looks emotional? Who looks strategic? Who looks reckless? Those questions matter more in modern beef than lyrical breakdowns. Then another layer complicated everything: public perception of fatherhood. When King attacked 50's relationship with his son, He tapped into an already sensitive narrative that's played out online for years. That wasn't accidental. He knew that topic triggers discussion. And it worked. The internet ran with it. But again, attacking someone's role as a parent hits deeper than rap. That's identity-level disrespect. And identity-level disrespect rarely resolves cleanly. At this stage, there were 3 simultaneous battles happening. T.I versus 50, legacy and catalog. King versus 50, family and trauma. The internet versus itself, morality and boundaries. And every time someone thought it might cool down, another clip resurfaced. One side argued this is hip-hop. Nothing is off limits. The other side argued that some lines should remain sacred no matter what. What makes this situation so intense isn't just the words spoken, it's the permanence of them. In the 90s or early 2000s, a wild comment might fade with time. Today, it's clipped, archived, reposted, memed, and preserved forever. That permanence raises the stakes. Because even if everyone involved decides tomorrow to move on, the internet won't. The clips will resurface during future album drops, during interviews, during unrelated controversies. This moment becomes part of each person's digital legacy. The beef stopped being about winning. It became about damage control, not just in terms of reputation, but in terms of long-term branding. Every artist involved now has to think about how this affects their image 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because hip-hop audiences remember. The only question left was whether this would escalate further or quietly simmer under the surface. And with personalities this strong and pride this heavy, quiet endings are rare. By the time part 3 of this saga unfolded, it wasn't just a rap beef anymore. It was a cultural moment. What started as a Versus challenge between T.I and 50 Cent had spiraled into something layered with ego, family, trauma, and generational pride. And now, everybody was watching to see who would blink first. After King Harris dropped Made Man, the conversation shifted again. This wasn't just a live stream rant anymore. He had officially entered the ring. Putting words on wax changes perception. It says, "I'm not just emotional, I'm competitive." And for some fans, that earned him respect. They felt he wasn't hiding behind Instagram stories. He was willing to back it up musically. But here's the reality. Stepping into the booth against 50 Cent is different than arguing on live. 50's entire legacy was built on dismantling opponents. From the early 2000s, he mastered psychological warfare. He didn't just diss people, he embarrassed them. He turned rivals into punchlines. And even when he didn't respond with full tracks, he controlled narratives with timing and silence. And that silence continued. Instead of escalating publicly in a dramatic way, 50 appeared to pivot. Reports circulated that he had started removing some T.I-related posts from his page. To some, that looked like backtracking. To others, it looked strategic. 50 has always understood something crucial. Sometimes letting your opponent keep talking works better than counterattacking immediately. Meanwhile, T.I stayed focused on music. He previewed more material. He kept the emphasis on bars and catalog. That was important because it showed a contrast in approach. Tip was treating it like lyrical competition. King had treated it like personal warfare. And 50 was treating it like a chess match. Then came the bigger cultural debate. Where is the line in hip-hop? When King Harris brought up 50's deceased mother, it triggered something deeper than fan loyalty. It forced the culture to confront its own contradictions. Hip-hop has always celebrated disrespect in battle form. No rules has been a common phrase in beef history. But the truth is, there have always been unwritten rules. Dead parents, children, spouses. Those topics carry weight. Some fans argued that once 50 posted Tiny, the door was open. Others said bringing up someone's late mother crosses into territory that can't be undone. And that's the tension that made this different from a typical rap feud. Then Boosie Badazz re-entered the conversation, and his stance became even more significant. Boosie didn't fully side with T.I, and he didn't defend 50 either. He basically said both sides played with fire, but King stepped into darkness. His warning about consequences wasn't metaphorical. He spoke from experience. Pride can escalate situations beyond social media. Words can lead to real-world outcomes. And that's what made people pause. Because the internet loves chaos. It rewards viral moments. It amplifies outrage. But it doesn't deal with aftermath. The artists do. Another major layer here is legacy. 50 Cent isn't just a rapper. He's a mogul with television empires and business ventures. T.I. is a Southern icon with decades of impact. King Harris is building his name. Every move impacts their brand differently. For 50, controversy often fuels visibility. For T.I., it tests respect. For King, it defines reputation early. That imbalance matters. At this stage, the real battle wasn't happening in diss tracks. It was happening in perception. Media outlets debated who looked emotional. Podcast hosts scored imaginary rounds. Fans split into regional loyalty camps. New York versus Atlanta. OG versus new generation. Strategy versus passion. But beneath all of that noise was a quieter truth. Nobody truly wins when family trauma becomes ammunition. Even if one side dominates headlines, there's long-term residue. Interviews years from now will bring this up. Album rollouts will reference it. Comment sections will never forget it. And that permanence is the real cost. There's also the father-son dynamic at play. When King attacked 50's relationship with his son, it added another psychological layer. Public tension between 50's and his child has been widely discussed online before. So when King weaponized that narrative, he tapped into an existing vulnerability. Whether justified or not, it made things deeply personal. But personal doesn't always equal productive. Because once respect is attacked at the identity level, as a son, as a father, as a man, reconciliation becomes complicated. Pride hardens, ego calcifies. And in hip-hop, ego is currency. So where does this realistically go? There are only a few outcomes. 1, it fades slowly. No big apology, no official truce, just time creating distance. 2, it escalates further. More music, more trolling, more direct shots. 3, it transforms into competitive energy strictly through records, leaving family out of it moving forward. Historically, the smartest route is number 3. When beef stays musical, it can actually elevate both sides. Fans get better records. Streaming numbers rise. Cultural moments are created without irreversible damage. But when dead parents are involved, emotions don't cool easily. That's the part that makes this unpredictable. And then there's the lesson factor. Younger artists watching this unfold are learning something in real time. They're seeing how quickly trolling can spiral. They're seeing how powerful social media is in shaping perception. They're seeing that defending family might earn respect, but how you defend them determines long-term impact. For King Harris, this moment could become defining. It could brand him as fearless and loyal, or it could brand him as impulsive. That depends on what happens next. For T.I., this reinforces his stance as someone who prefers lyrical combat. He stepped into the booth. He kept it musical. That distinction matters to purists. For 50 Cent, this reinforces his image as someone who can spark chaos without overexerting himself. Whether people love or hate it, he remains central to the conversation. And for the culture, this forces reflection. Is there still a line? Or has social media erased it completely? Because once something is said publicly, especially about deceased loved ones, there is no edit button, no rewind, no clean reset. The clips live forever. And that's the final weight of this entire situation. This wasn't just about a versus battle. It wasn't just about ego. It became about how far is too far in modern hip-hop and whether clout is worth permanent scars. In the end, everyone involved has to live with the words spoken. Not the memes. Not the trending hashtags. The words. And in this culture, words don't disappear. They echo. If this situation proves anything, it's that hip-hop isn't just music anymore. It's legacy, pride, and real-life emotion playing out in public. When names like 50 Cent, T.I., King Harris, and Boosie Badazz get involved, it's never just about a diss track. It becomes about family, respect, and how far someone is willing to go to defend their name. Now I want to hear from you. Who crossed the line first? Was this just competitive energy taken too far? Or did somebody violate an unwritten rule that can't be undone? Drop your thoughts in the comments and keep it respectful. If you rock with real breakdowns that go deeper than headlines, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story, because if this taught us anything, it's that in hip-hop, things can change overnight. And trust me, this one might not be over yet.